Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm doing the patch 13.24 notes, so if you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, and let's get into it. We are seeing a plethora of buffs this patch. They are mostly trying to make things stay very kind of similar to what they are at the moment, so they get a good read when going into the new season. A bunch of buffs are things they kind of want to keep over going into next season. So for Galio, it's like changing his play pattern a bit, Gragas giving him some more things on his passive, Cassante just kind of buffing him back up after being a bit weaker last patch, and then nothing down the top junglers at the moment. Ivan and Briar both really overperforming at the moment. We're getting a bunch of new skins. This is part of the Winter Blessed event where they are bringing back 2v2v2v2, and Hawaii is coming out, so that's going to be exciting to try out as well. We are getting a change towards casting at max range. There is now going to be a toggle, which you can now have it where it's either on your like at the longest range of your cursor, or it will move you towards the where you want to place the ability, which is a nice change to have in the game. Hawaii is going to be coming out on December the 6th, so that's going to be exciting. He is a mid lane mage, very high skill from what I've seen, and yeah, will probably end up being pro skewed and end up being nerfed into the ground, but it's one of those things where enjoy it whilst it's out in the game. So Azir is the first champion which is being changed. He is having his W damage go up from 50 to 110 to 50 to 118 on the level scaling. This on the ability scaling, this is level scaling, which is a very minor change. It's mostly to give him back some power he lost when they allowed his W to have on hit last patch. He's now very much tied to Nash's tooth. You do have to go as item if you want Azir to be a viable champ. He's performing quite well with Lucian, so I definitely recommend looking into that build path. I know some people still go the Andrews. It can work in certain game situations, but Lucian is definitely the top performer. You can run things like Kayla Blades, Lethal. I know some people still like to go the Conqueror and the Arcane Comet in certain situations, but for the most part, Kayla Blades is his best at performing Keystone. Definitely give it a try, and yeah, should be in a better spot now. Braum is getting a decent change here, with his base mana regen going up from 6 to 7, allowing him to be able to cast more Qs and use his E and W a bit more often. But the big one is his R is going to have its minimum knockup duration doubled from 0.3 seconds to 0.6 seconds, which is a very large buff. Increasing his usability at very much close range encounters, allowing his flash ult to be more valuable. Does make him a bit more pro skewed, but definitely a big change towards an already decent solo queue option, so definitely consider picking up Braum for the last patch of the season. Briar is going to have a bunch of changes. Her base armor is going to be going down, her attack speed ratio is going to be going up. This is to mainly encourage like your Stride Breaker, your Bork builds. The Q head rush is going to be going down in damage from 60 to 200 to 60 to 180. Blood Frenzy is going to have its bonus attack speed go from 60 to 120 to 55 to 115%. The E Chilling Scream damage reduction is going to go from 40% to 35%, and the healing is going to go from 10 to 16% of maximum health to 9 to 13% of maximum health. And the R certain death damage is going to go from 150 to 450 with a 75% bonus AD ratio and a 110% bonus AP ratio. Physical damage to 200 to 550 damage, plus 50% bonus AD ratio, 120% AP ratio, and magic damage. This is very much encouraging her to go towards the likes of Bork, Stride Breaker, being a bit more bruisery, nothing down her AD ratio, combined with changing the damage on her R is going to hurt lethality quite a large amount. Overall, she'll still probably be a good performer, especially as more people hop off the champion, and it's mostly just left with the people who really are committed to playing Briar. But yeah, very high skill champion. If you pilot, if you can pilot the champion well, she's very good. And yeah, if you itemize correctly, I imagine lethality will still probably be performing better than Bruiser next patch, but this will definitely close the gap and make Bruiser more of a option. Galio is having his Q cooldown decreased from 12 to 10 seconds to 12 to 8 seconds. This is a nice change, as it now allows him to rotate Q more often in those late game team fights. Once you hit level 9, it will be really big for like Drake fighting, pushing waves more frequently. Overall, just outputting a bit more DPS. I know some people still like to go Everfrost. However, Night Harvester is definitely his top performing build at the moment. Night Harvester into Demonics, I believe, is the strongest combo. However, of course, you can swap out items depending on games. Not always is it going to be a Night Harvester angle, but you can also go things like Zonya. You can pick up things like a Shadow Flame if you're looking for really high burst potential. But overall, this is a nice change. Definitely puts him on the radar as being a viable mid laner. Gragas is getting a huge change. So his cooldown on his passive is going to be going from 12 seconds to 12 to 6 seconds scaling. Levels 1, 6, 11, 16. This is a huge buff towards Gragas, as this now enables tank Gragas to be played again. This kind of a cooldown later on, if you have a large health pool, basically makes him unkillable if you're ahead of the curve. If you're behind, but of course you can still kind of mow through Gragas. Tanks do have that issue at the moment. But yeah, if you're ahead on Gragas, you've got things like maybe Fimbulwinter. I don't know if this will be a strong item on him, but I believe it might be a pickup if your mana costs are really kind of like proving to be an issue when you're rotating a large amount of abilities later on into the game. Of course, you can maybe argue that some of the mythics aren't great for him. Your choices are very much limited to like Everfrost, Radiant Virtue possibly, but then that's a bit more conditional. Heartsteel in lower elo is probably going to be the optimal way to play in the top lane for sure. But yeah, it'll most likely be Everfrost, I imagine, of any of the tank tank AP hybrid mythics. When you'd go into like a tank variation, and then you could also maybe go Iceborne into very AoE heavy comps where you're not really punished that heavily for picking up a purely armor health item early on into the game. There are also options. Maybe you start with the Barmies and then go Radiant and then kind of go from there, or Barmies, Everfrost, or Everfrost Barmies. There are options, definitely. Just mainly some theory crafting which needs to be done here. But yeah, huge buff here. Definitely puts him on the radar as being most likely one of the strongest top mid lane flex picks in the game. Ivan is going to have his base health decreased. I mean, easily decreased. So 25 health is being lost. The slow is going to go from 50 to 70% to 45 to 65%. Overall, very minor changes towards Ivan. He's still going to be one of the top performers of a jungle tier list. Might get dropped from like the S plus down to the S tier, but even then, these are very small changes, and he might just continue to have dominance over the jungle tier list. Cassante is going to have his W mana cost decrease and W damage increase. So I know people dislike this champion, but they did over nerf in this patch, so it makes sense why they would compensate him. The memes always like he's getting a skin, or he's had a skin recently we've got to sell, but I think having champions which are just in very weak states is not a healthy long-term solution. So buffing a champion is always, if they're weak, is always a good option. His W mana cost is going to go from 60 to 80 to 40 to 60, and the damage is going to go up from 30% of bonus armor and 30% of bonus magic resist to 50% of bonus armor and 50% of bonus magic resist. Not a huge change, but should give him about 1, maybe 2% win rate for like a 44, I believe he is at the moment. So yeah, should be in a better spot next patch, definitely. Leona is going to have her W bonus armor and magic resist go from 20 to 40 to 20 to 50. This is a very nice change, as this is her first max ability. And the R Solar Flare is going to be gaining 50 damage at all ranks, which is also very big. This increases her ability to just, it increases your duo potential of being able to just burst someone down in the duration of Solar Flare. It also makes you more durable in laning phase, with your first max ability now giving you another 10 magic resistant armor. So overall, Leona definitely going to be performing a lot better. I don't suddenly think this puts her in a spot where she's like S tier as a tank support, but she will definitely now sit like as a high A, I imagine. Lucian is going to have his cooldown on his E go from 22 to 14 to 19 to 14. So this is a nice early game buff. Do I think it would do that much? Not really. 3 seconds on a ability which you kind of choose when to go in. It's not something you use off CD. It won't do a huge amount. It'll be nicer in those mid-game team fights when you're not level 13 and you're kind of like around level 9, 10, getting towards that 14-second cooldown. But it's not going to do a huge amount. Maybe there are some combos where this can really be abused in in competitive play. But yeah, for normal Soda Q, this isn't going to do a huge amount. Mordekaiser Q is going to be gaining 10% AP ratio. And the R is going to have it, so it reveals the target upon casting. That means if you dodge into the bush when Mord is casting ult, you can no longer get away from it. This is a nice quality of life change towards Mordekaiser, and actually a decent buff, especially in elite play where people know the timings a bit more. And when he raises his mace to put you in the death realm, you can kind of dodge out of it. pretty nice change here. And the Q change is very good. When you're going things like Riley, Demonic, Riftmaker, it will be really strong with these 3 item power spikes, and it's getting a decent chunk of damage on the Q. Not only just flat out, but like on the ISO damage as well. So yeah, definitely going to be a bit better spot. I would now recommend swapping towards Riftmaker over Jackshow, as this will be kind of enough to convince a lot of people. But yeah, Jackshow will have situations where it's decent. I'm also just not a huge fan of Jackshow. I think it's pretty bait in most situations, where Riftmaker is more optimal. Kiana is going to have her base mana go up from 325 to 375, and the mana growth is going to go from 50 to 60. So these are nice changes towards Kiana. Does make her a bit more spammy in laning phase when you kind of want to play far back, spam out Qs, get your CS. It does buff the Manamune build. It also buffs not going Manamune, as you'll have more base mana to work with. We'll see if she really does drop the Manamune, but yeah, nice changes nonetheless for Kiana. Talon's range Q now also resets Talon's attack timer. Nice quality of life change here. Talon's already performing quite well at the moment. I don't imagine this will push him over the edge, but definitely consider picking him up if you do enjoy the champion. I know both his lethality and his booster build are functional within the game at the moment as like as very strong options in certain situations. For the booster build, Gore Drinker, Cleaver, Starks can all work quite well. He has pretty bad base AD, so it can kind of hurt the Starks buy. But I know things like Shojin can work quite nicely on Talon as well. For lethality, Yomu's, Axiom, Edge of Night, Shroud's Grudge, all these options work quite nicely on him as well. You can also go things like Prowler's Claw. I believe that is his second most popular item when you are going the Yomu's first. Vel'Koz is having bug fixes towards his W name. These are nice quality of life changes as well. Stop some fizzle timings, which can be quite frustrating to work with. Zoe is going to have her AD growth go from 1.3 to 2, and her W damage is going to go from 20 to 180 to 30 to 190. Not huge buffs, but yeah, I mean, the thing is, the AD growth one is nice, but the main problem with Zoe at the moment is she takes a lot of time to get going, and this doesn't really help her time to get going. She's still a late game monster at the moment, and this will make her even more of a late game monster, but yeah, for the most part, her early game is really where she struggles. She's very much weak at the moment there, but yeah, this will definitely help her late game scaling and her ability to kill. The other concern might be that like Triforce Zoe and maybe some of the Titanic stuff comes back. I don't think it will, but there are concerns there. Her Q doesn't proc Sheen, which is a big reason why you don't go Triforce at the moment. So do I think this will suddenly bring it back? Not really, no. So yeah, I mean, nice changes towards Zoe. Probably gives her about 2% win rate, but for like a 44% win rate ADC at the moment, she needs a bit more to really be strong within solo queue. Probably goes up from like the C tier to like a low B, especially if you are proficient at the champion. So ranked season schedule update. There are changes towards the ranked season. Nice. There are still lots of bugs with the leaderboard, which I know people are very much frustrated about. Arena returns, very popular game mode, the 2v2v2v2, lots of augments being changed, lots of balance adjustments, nice. And if we go really far down, because there's a lot of changes, got ARAM balance changes, Clash ARAM Cup, and we've got a Mythic Shop rotation, so cool. A couple of bug fixes, quality of life changes. This had been on the PB for a while, I believe, but it's finally on live. And yeah, new skins. These all look pretty cool. My favorite is the Hecarim one. It looks very, very nice. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.